Let's take a look at this day. Buhari considers recirculating old 200 Naira notes to ease pains of Naira scarcity. Moments ago, we just heard Mr. President ordering the Central Bank of Nigeria to recirculate the old 200 Naira notes in a bid to ease the Naira cash scarcity and pains of the citizen. And also, he said some people might say he spoke really and truly as a president and not partisan when he said and quoted that this policy really is to reduce cash-induced politics and in turn have a cashless, free and fair election come February 25th and also March 11th. Emmanuel Bello, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think a lot of Nigerians are in agreement that the president got this right and that the momentum is on the side of the president in saying that, look, we need a cashless election, an election where you and I are not going to be unduly pushed over by monies. Of course, politicians who have actually stacked money away, especially in those 500 Naira notes and 1,000 Naira notes of the old cash, we find this a bit very painful and, of course, doesn't go their way. Some people will even say that, look, it's the president's own way of bequeathing on us an election that is not tainted by cash, tainted by undue influence. And I've listened to a lot of people on the streets and they say, well, look, we don't have a problem with the cashless crisis. So, and so some of these protests you're saying, some people even say they're induced. Obaseki, for instance, is accusing Oshomole in one of the story of being the one masterminding some of the serious attacks on banks and the agitations and the protests and all of that. Oshomole has fired back to say, look, it's nothing to do with me, and that they should look elsewhere for the blame if they want to blame anyone. But if you look at the biggest voice, those who are really against this policy, funny enough, seem to come from the party, the APC. They seem to be the loudest voice when it comes to attacking the president on this cashless policy. Shehu Sani, Comrade Shehu Sani, former senator, coming out strongly in one of the stories and saying, look, Mr. President, stick to the deadlines and don't shift one bit. He's of the PDP. So you can understand that that's a talking point for the PDP. But in this broadcast, yes, Nkechi, you're right, the president did not talk as partisan. He spoke as the president of the country and he's appealing for calm. He's saying, look, Nigerians must understand this situation. And he almost, clearly telling Nigerians, this is my plan all along. And he said that from the first day when this day reported on this, that, look, the policy was aimed at vote buying. The president was very clear about it. Some people will say it should have been done earlier, or Nigerians should have been prepared strongly. Not many people really knew this was going to happen. But the bankers, the president in that speech is saying that it is the banks that are colluding with certain politicians to actually deny Nigerians access to the new notes, and that the CBN is going to put measures in place to ease the pain of the people. So he's a general at war, and he's saying that, look, while this is drawing a lot of blood, we are hemorrhaging, he's going to still be doing the first aid work to ease the pain, to lessen the severity of the anger and the anguish that is felt out there. But that this is necessary. It's like talking to your patient, practically telling him to calm down, that you know what you're doing. You're administering the drugs, you're administering the injections, and you're telling the patient to just take it easy because this is necessary for his survival.
Emmanuel, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria already spoke. He spoke earlier, and he's criticized those who've been hoarding the new notes, and also point of sale operators, POS agents, who've been charging more than 100 or 200 Naira for those who are trying to make withdrawals. The CBN governor would be at ease following this speech from the president, wouldn't he?
Well, I think they seem to be in agreement somewhere, and the president did not really, seriously. It's not as if the president completely deviated from what he and his CBN chief have been saying all along. They seem to have even told the same lie. And in this broadcast, the president almost sounded like Emefiele yesterday, talking about the gains and the need for the policy. So it's not as if there's a disconnect between some of the stories say that the president has overruled his CBN chief. I don't think that's what has happened here. I think what the president has done is that he spoke like the president, the father of the nation, and saying that, look, we need to actually, there should be some kind of human face around the policy. I think like for Emefiele, the CBN governor, he will go all the way with the original plan, which is to suck out all these monies out of the, the economy. So the president is not really, I think, has not differed so, so fundamentally with the CBN, chief and all the policy itself. But yes, this tweaking has happened, and it's the president is very clear about it, that it's just to ease those pains before the big election. But the big picture, the fact that you want a cashless economy or you want a cashless election is still there. And I think that's what shares in common with the CBN chief.
Emmanuel Balo, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, you have those photos of protests across the country, citizens burning banks, burning a CBN office. Says violence spreads in states. 3 people have been killed, at least 3 people, as citizens are protesting. They're frustrated. And you mentioned that some people are saying that these protests are being influenced, but people on the street, and the reality will show you that Nigerians are really suffering. Nigerians are really frustrated. They don't have enough cash. They don't have access to cash to go about their businesses. There's food and commodity prices are through the roof. Emmanuel, people can't go about their day-to-day lives without people that don't have cash, or people that don't have access to online banking, or have some people don't even have cards, Emmanuel. Some people where they live, they don't even have ATM machines to even get this cash or even to queue up. Yesterday on my way home, I saw hundreds and hundreds of people just queuing under the sun in a bid to get as little as whatever they can get. And so what I want to ask you is, this new order from the president, how do you think it might reduce these tensions and violence across the country?
Yeah, I think when the president spoke like, the president of the country, and he's saying, look, I feel your pain. I understand those things you're talking about. He said, look, I know that. I know what people are going through. But you see, the president did not stop at that. He's actually tying our current crisis to unscrupulous politicians who are in conjunction with
but Emmanuel,
that's what the president is saying.
Just to cut you off, I'm sorry about that. These unscrupulous politicians or bank officials that the president's talking about, the CBN governor is talking about, they're stashing all this cash under their pillow or in the soccer way or wherever they're stashing it. Why don't we know these people? Why aren't they named and shamed? Why do we have the security agencies only capturing these POS agents that are collecting 1,000 or 2,000 Naira commission? All these politicians or bank officials that are hindering this cash supply in the society, why isn't anything being done about that? Why are we just talking about it like it's some gossip or some hearsay?
Well, I think the president again in that speech was very, very emphatic that, look, even the POS operators you're talking about, the CBN governor the other day identified them as part and parcel of the crisis of the supply chain crisis that we're having with the new notes. And you're right, there should be some naming and shaming. There should be some real high-profile arrests. We saw arrests of bank managers in the early days of this crisis, and now a new twist to it altogether, that these protests are orchestrated. At least the big protests, the burning of the banks, burning of people on the street. It's a look. This is organized. This is a huge protest. Like I said, the president in this broadcast, because we have to go back to this broadcast today and its centrality in the entire thing. And what the president is saying in the broadcast is that, look, Nigerians, you ought to just understand with us, understand with me. This is surgery that we need to do. You have to go through these pains. They are teething problem, but in a matter of days, it should be over. I think all he's targeting is the election. Let us just have an election that is not corrupted or is not unduly, tainted with slush money that can be used anyway. So that's what the president is gunning with his speech. And like you say, the protesters are there, the pains are there, everyone is going through some. And I think every Nigerian has got a story to tell about how they are going about their lives now. We've never seen anything like that. It's actually unprecedented. But this president is saying that, look, it's necessary. It's a pain that you have to go through, you and I. I don't think the president actually suffers from the kind of thing that the rest of us are suffering, or some of the big men, like we call them out here, going through the same thing. But he's saying this is necessary. We need to just go through the meals. We need to go through the pains, and we need to forget, those protests and all of that, and side with him, support him as we head into a very, very critical election. The president seems to be very focused on the election. He says he feels the pain. He understands all that we're going through, but that we need to make these sacrifices to ensure that we have an election that is, a reflection of the transparency that he wants to be kids on the rest of as a person. I think the president is seeking redemption with this. He wants a situation where he will be the one that will usher in a better day, a new day for the rest of us, and that's an election that we can all trust and will be all proud of. And maybe this is the sacrifice, according to what he's saying. What he say, the sacrifice we need to make to bear with the president and bear with this policy for a cashless election up ahead. Kenneth,
let's wait to see how it pans out. Thank you so much.